Hello and welcome. I'm Raziel, and so today I was thought about something because when it comes to wargaming settings, I think they are fun, they're interesting. The lore tends to be really enjoyable and again interesting to get a nice background on the games you're playing. And some do it well, some do it mediocrely, and some games don't need a background because they're historical, and we just have history books for this. But it did get me thinking when it comes to lore and settings about this idea that no one's the good guy and no one's the bad guy. Everyone lives in this grey area of good or bad. Now, this is something I find to be tedious. It's boring. It's just something that is an excuse for bad writing or having the heroes do something awful because grey area. Now, I get it. There are people who are bad in games who are absolutely evil and there are evil people in the good side and there's good people in the bad side. I can get that, but they should remain the exception, not the rule. They shouldn't all factions shouldn't be in this grey area. Now, Mantic do it pretty well because they have the good guys, the neutral guys, and they have the bad guys. You've got the example: dwarves are good. You have ogres, which are neutral, and you have the abyssal dwarves, which are bad. So you do still have that grey area for some factions. They might be mercenaries, so it's all about gold, not necessarily evil. It's more of an economic thing for them rather than out and out evil. And you can get the downright evil as well, such as the abyssal dwarves. But there isn't this really grey area for the good guys and the bad guys. They are basically both either good or bad, and it does work, and I think it's quite cool because in stories, in settings like this, especially if they're meant to be grim dark, to have that shining light of hope and, these good people who are there for you to, the heroes, the knights, whatever you want to call them, is a good thing because it actually adds to the setting rather than take anything away. You can have the evil, evil, evil things, but you can also have the good things. See, if everyone's on this grey area of neutrality and, everyone's bad and everyone's good at the same time, as I said, it makes the setting boring because there's nothing really there to push the story along. If everyone's in this grey area, then who's the winner in the end? Who do you want to root for? You can root for your own faction, obviously, but in the main setting of a game, you need these good guys. You want to win. You want the people who are the noble and the honourable and the loyal. You want those guys to win. You want them to beat the bad guys, to chase away the darkness of the setting, and not be considered, neutrally grey. They have this, morals that are just, well, boring, rather than having morals that are distinctively good morals. And, well, Ultramarines do get a lot of stick. They're kind of the closest we have to being the good guys, the morally correct ones, and not the sort of grey area of them. And you also got the Salamanders, if you forget that they destroyed a church to the Emperor. Well, something to do with their Emperor and worshipping him and the, what is it called, the Sensei. It's all that sort of nonsense. Yeah, they destroyed that under the words of an Inquisitor. And so, this idea that, they are good or they are bad, and never really, they're good and bad, but never really show any sort of real morals that, you would respect or hate. Salamanders killed a Xenos baby. They killed an Eldari baby. Okay. The Eldar were meant to be their bad guys. They were meant to be the villains of that story. And it was an eradication. That's what Space Marines do. They eradicate entire planets if they have to. And Xenos are considered the enemy because of things that they go against when it comes to the Imperium. Now, The Imperium won't shy away from allying with the Eldari when it becomes necessary. But half the time you find that the Eldari just helps them out against chaos and then will turn on the Imperium anyway. And with that in mind, killing the Eldari in its entirety would have saved a lot more human lives than it would, anyway else. This idea that the Eldari can't be trusted in in an allyship, I should say, is fine, because if you put the Imperium as the good guys, even though they do such horrid things to their own people, but if they're just doing it for no reason because Inquisitors are bad because they like to lock people up, doesn't really add anything to the story. If they were locking up people for, actual reasons, chaos worship, allying with the enemy, spying, all that, then that would make sense in a story point of view. But just to have them locked up because they want to lock them up because reasons, it doesn't really add anything to the Imperium. It just makes, the Imperium evil too. So who's the good guy? Who is the one you want to control the galaxy? The Tower's starting to get this way as well. They were originally meant to be the good guys of the 40k setting after the Space Marines, because a lot of this isn't even old first edition lore. This came out round about the time when the Horus Heresy first started. The Space Marines were meant to be the spear tip. They were meant to be the ones that went forward, so the average Imperial Guardsman, or the militia as it would be, would not be in as much great a threat as they would have been if they went first. The Space Marines were meant to be the guardians of humanity and protect them, not, tell these hundreds and thousands of soldiers to go to their death just to protect a few Space Marines. It was always meant to be the other way around. So, but like I said, when the setting is so grey and nuanced like this, it doesn't add anything to the story. You do need the absolute good and the absolute evil. Tyranids aren't evil; they are just instinctual. Same with the Orcs; it's just instinctual. They're not, they're not evil. Necrons were meant to be evil. They were meant to be this vicious who just wanted to conquer the galaxy. It wasn't instinct for them. It was cold and heartless, and they were being ruled by people that wanted, skeletons and robotic skeletons, whatever, and who wanted to destroy everything that wasn't a Necron. See, with the Orcs, they will fight anyone, and the Tyranids will eat anyone. And the same with Chaos. Chaos is meant to be the ultimate evil. But it's like, but it's a force of nature. You can't really say Chaos is evil. It was meant to be evil. It was meant to be corruptive. It's meant to be able to distort the human mind, yet never actually, overcome it because of the Emperor being the ultimate good. They would fight against the Emperor, and sometimes they would win. But most of the time, it was a loss. But the wins were important for Chaos because it showed that, the hero doesn't always win. Sometimes the villain wins. But this idea now that Chaos is always losing, and now you have normal Primarchs just kicking the hell out of demon Primarchs, it just takes away so much of the story. And then you can't really feel bad for the good Primarchs because they're part of the Imperium, who's morally grey. They aren't really the good guys. So you don't really feel that bad because they've taken away the loss of the hero. They've just taken a loss for someone who's in a grey area, same against the villains they were fighting. The Chaos were meant to be evil, so when they defeated the Imperium, it was a big shock. But there was redemption when Imperium came back and defeated them. So you felt something, rather than just, oh look, it's another book with the same storyline and everything else is the same. Anyway, that's just my little talk for today, and I'll see you all tomorrow. I hope you all have a lovely day, and hope you have a good time. Link to Wayland Games down below, as always, and of course there is, if you want up to 20% off and free delivery off to £20, there's also my merchandise, Forbidden Planet, and Skyforge. Never forget Skyforge. And finally, there is Patreon, because business. Bye bye.